let's go to the history. I think the history is fascinating. I think people just think that Palantir, it was this government company, which is where it started. But now that they've expanded to the commercial side, and when we actually dive into Foundry and the different products, you'll see that the optionality is limitless. Um, but let's see where it got its start. And one of the cool parts about starting in government is they already have all the FedRAMP certifications. They've already proven they can be trusted. They have protection. They have security down. So when you have mission five, I think level five clearance is what they have. They're going for six on SaaS. They are the most trusted SaaS company out there from a government perspective. So we look at here in the history off of Wikipedia. So take some things with a grain of salt, right? There, I'm sure there may be a couple of things not necessarily fully correct, but it should be 99% pretty accurate when we look here. And everything I saw here looked, from all the research I've done, accurate. So Palantir Technologies is a public American company, software company that specializes in big data analytics, headquartered in Denver, Colorado. It was founded by Peter Thiel, which we already talked about, Nathan Gettings, Joe Lonsdale, Stephen Cohen, and Alex Karp in 2003. So they've been around. The company's name is derived from the Lord of the Rings, which we already talked about with Palantir, and these crystal balls that gave communication to everyone and see the events in the world. So the company is known for three projects in particular: Palantir Gotham, which is their government solution; Palantir Metropolis, which is their finance solution, which people don't really talk about too often. And some things, one of the things that shareholders don't like is that, and institutional investors, is that there's some things they're not sharing. But I understand that when you look at their clientele, there's certain things they can't share about on Gotham. There's certain things they can't share about in Metropolis. And then Palantir Foundry. Palantir Gotham is used by counterterrorism analysts at offices in the United States intelligence community and United States Department of Defense. In the past, Gotham was used by fraud investigators at the Recovery, Accountability, and Transparency Board, a former U.S. federal agency which operated from 2009 to 2015. So it's already at this point being used in some of the most highly secure areas within our government. Gotham was also used by cyber analysts at Information Warfare Monitor, a Canadian public-private venture which operated from 2003 to 2012. Palantir Metropolis is used by hedge funds, banks, and financial service firms. Okay, so once again, critical data that cannot be leaked out, that there's compliance regulations to meet, and they are trusted with this to protect. That gives me confidence as a shareholder that they're already breaking through some of the most secure industries that are so hard to get those certifications and compliances. Palantir Foundry is used by corporate clients such as Morgan Stanley, Merck, KGaA, Airbus, and Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. Palantir's original clients were federal agencies of the USIC. It has since expanded its customer base to serve state and local governments, as well as private companies in the financial and healthcare industries. So, kind of a little brief overview, but now let's dig a little deeper as far as the history of the company and where it is now versus where it was, and why I like to do that, and why that's so important with investing and looking at a company that I want to hold long term is I want to see that they've survived some struggles. I want to see that they've pushed through and that they have continued on mission and executed, right? So with a company for 18 years of age and now successfully public, let's see that here in the writings. So in 2003, 2008, in the founding and early years, though usually listed as having been founded in 2004, SEC filings state Palantir's official incorporation to be in May 2003 by Peter Thiel, which we stated earlier. And then we're going to say in 2004, Thiel bankrolled the creation of a prototype by PayPal engineer Nathan Gettings and Stanford University students Joe Lonsdale and Stephen Cohen. That same year, Peter Thiel hired Alex Karp, a former colleague on his of his from Stanford Law School, as CEO. So we have all these guys, bright minds at Stanford, and Peter is seeing that there needs to be a solution to solve for fraud recognition and dealing with what PayPal was experiencing. And these gentlemen created that software solution. Later became Gotham. Headquartered in Palo Alto, California, the company initially struggled to find investors. According to Karp, Sequoia Capital chairman Michael Moritz doodled through an entire meeting, and a Kleiner Perkins executive lectured the founders about the inevitable failure of the company. So I love this, that they've been told you're going to fail. There's no way you're breaking these secure markets, and this is too hard to accomplish. So I like the fact that they've accepted the challenge. The only early investments were 2 million from the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency's venture capital arm in InQtel, and 30 million from Peter himself and his venture capital firm Founders Fund. That's skin in the game, folks. Skin in the game. That's what I like to see from a founder. Palantir developed its technologies by computer scientists and analysts from intelligence agencies over 3 years through pilots that facilitated by InQtel. And the company stated computers alone using artificial intelligence could not defeat an adaptive adversary. Instead, Palantir proposed using human analysts to explore data from many sources called intelligence augmentation. That's the thought process behind how they can make things more accessible, smarter, more usable for humans to have counterintelligence and to succeed in these missions of protection and challenges that they have with data. In 2009, the GhostNet and Shadow Network. Uh, in 2009 and 2010, respectively, Information Warfare Monitor used Palantir software to uncover the GhostNet and the Shadow Network. The GhostNet was a China-based cyber espionage network targeting 1,295 computers in 103 countries, including the Dalai Lama's office, a NATO computer, and various national embassies. The Shadow Network was also a China-based espionage operation that hacked into the Indian security and defense apparatus. Cyber spies stole documents related to Indian security and NATO troop activity in Afghanistan. Okay, so we're talking about big problems. We're talking about critical, you can't fail problems to go solve. Like, you have to figure this out, and we don't know where to start. And Palantir is the solution and software used, and they execute and they get the data done. They get the information, and that builds trust with a government. That builds brand awareness. That builds a competitive moat. If they can do that in the government space, imagine what they can do in the commercial space. So then they expand in 2010 and 2012. In April 2010, Palantir announced a partnership with Thomas Reuters to sell the Palantir Metropolis product as QA Studio, a quantitative analysis tool. On June 18, 2010, Vice President Joe Biden and Office of Management and Budget Director Peter Orszag held a press conference at the White House announcing the success of fighting fraud in the stimulus by the Recovery, Accountability, and Transparency Board. Once again, big problems, Palantir addressing them. Biden credited the success of software Palantir being deployed by the federal government. He announced that the capability will be deployed at other government agencies, starting with Medicare and Medicaid. Estimates were 250 million in revenues in 2011. Once again, big challenges, going after it and solving it. So now they need additional funding in 2013 and 2016. So this company has had to go through some heartache. They've had to accumulate revenue. They've had to get funding to continue on and keep their data scientists happy, who are accumulating shares too through this whole process of this private company, and promise that eventually they'll go public. A document linked to TechCrunch revealed that Palantir's clients as of 2013 included at least 12 groups within the US government, including the CIA, DHS, NSA, FBI, CDC, and the Marine Corps, the Air Force Special Operations Command, West Point, the Joint Improvised Threat Defeat Organization and Allies, and Recovery Accountability and Transparency Board, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Wow. Those are some important government, military organizations that are protecting the freedoms of our country, and they trust Palantir. However, at the time, the United States Army continued to use its own data analysis tool. Also, according to TechCrunch, the US spy agencies such as the CIA and FBI were linked for the first time with Palantir software as their database had previously been siloed. So, once again, going back to the fundamentals and principles of data, and all these different organizations in the commercial organization, as well as governments, siloed data, different tools, different data sets, not being able to tie it all together into one pane of glass, into one living, connected tissue organism that allows me to make faster decisions and smarter decisions and impact is more divisions and more users on board. It gets better and better and better because that's the whole premise of artificial intelligence is the more data we gather, the smarter it should be, the smarter it should execute, and the better in truth and in context it should also be, if the machine learning and the algorithms are well done. So in 2013, Palantir disclosed over 196 million in funding, according to a U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission filing. It was estimated that the company would likely close almost $1 billion in contracts in 2014. Alex Karp announced in 2013 that the company would not be pursuing an IPO, as going public would make running a company like ours very difficult. So at that point, they were dealing with so much top secret stuff and didn't really know how to navigate. We can't go public. We're so wrapped up in revenues within the government and top secret stuff. How would we be able to disclose the value that we're bringing without divulging too much? In December 2013, the company began a round of financing, raised around 450 million from private funders. They raised the company's value to $9 billion, according to Forbes, with the magazine further explaining the valuation made Palantir among Silicon Valley's most valuable private technology companies. In 2014, Forbes reported that Palantir was looking to raise 400 million in an additional round of financing. And after the company filed paperwork with the Securities and Exchange Office, SEC, the month before, the report was based on the research by VC experts. If completed, Forbes stated Palantir's fund could reach a total of 1.2 billion. As of December 2014, the company continued to have diverse private funders: Kenneth Lagon, Stanley Druckenmiller, In-Q-Tel of the CIA, Tiger Global Management, which has done phenomenal when it comes to investing in tech companies, and Founders Fund, which is a venture firm operated by Peter Thiel, the chairman of Palantir. As of December 2014, Thiel was Palantir's largest shareholder. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see as the company's evolving, is skin in the game and also more institutional investment. The company was valued at 5 billion in 2014 of November. In June 2015, BuzzFeed reported the company was raising up to 500 million in new capital and a valuation of now $20 billion. By December 2015, it had raised a further 880 million, while the company was still valued at $20 billion. In February 2016, Palantir bought Kimono Labs, a startup which makes it easy to collect information from public-facing websites. In August 2016, Palantir acquired data visualization startup Silk. Now, I want you to think about this. When you think about optionality and you think about having this operating system, which we'll talk about, this living organism of their software in Gotham and Foundry, the optionality that they can do in partnerships, which we'll talk about. They made partnerships just recently with Data Robot and several other companies, including Microsoft. This allows them more revenue streams and to be that enabler for other companies to be better products, to be better companies for their customers, because of how they approach the design of their software. So the fact that they're able to auto continuously update their software, and that the more users, the more departments that use their different tools and different modules, the smarter the AI gets, the better the decisions, the faster the savings. That's easy to justify if you've never been able to do that before. And Palantir's goal is to be the ultimate software company. And I think they're well on their way to potentially achieve that one day if they keep executing like this. Once again, my opinion, not a recommendation, not a financial buy or sell. Do your own due diligence and follow this process. But I wanted to give my opinion and where I feel so far. And I am a long term shareholder. So, Palantir in 2020, one of four large technology firms to start working with the NHS on supporting COVID-19 efforts through the provision of software from Palantir Foundry. And by April 2020, several countries have used Palantir technology to track and contain the contagion. Palantir also developed Tiberius, a software for vaccine allocation used in the United States. In December 2020, Palantir was awarded a $44.4 million contract by the US Food and Drug Administration, boosting its shares by about 21%. So that was when we saw it's almost at its all-time high around that December to February timeframe. Uh, and they've gotten so many more partnerships since then. But there was some lockups in shares that, rightfully so. These employees have worked at this company for so long and they went public through a direct listing. They wanted to sell the shares that they had been sitting on for decades, or over a decade, to recoup those finances. So you saw this huge drop in the stock price, and now it's basing per se, around that $25 range. So the valuation here, we can see that they ended up going public in 2019 at a $41 billion valuation, and they are roughly, I believe, at $50 billion, or roughly right around there. So that's the history. That's the starting piece. Investors sometimes don't like that they don't understand everything or not everything's disclosed. But what you can see is there's so many use cases on the website and the different products and the type of customers they have. They have 149 customers and they're doing $1.2 billion on annual revenue. This company has so much potential that we're going to deep dive into. So this concludes part one. I know it was a little longer than we anticipated, but this gives us a fundamental breakdown of, kind of recapping here, great leadership, employee satisfaction, and high internal NPS, solving world-changing problems. And they've already shown numerous use cases for that. High security clearances, getting into the hardest compliance regulations and supporting that, and having those relationships and the government and the public sector, and then growing and being able to raise financing and go public after really focusing on making a great product for over 18 years. They understand that you have to have the technology that stands on its own. Keep in mind, all the time, this whole time, they were selling their product without a sales team. They just added in 2021 50 sales reps. That speaks so many volumes when you talk about the quality of a product. And even Alex talks about it. And we'll show you a picture of him in maybe our next episode, the crazy scientist, mad scientist hair, that he says, people have to deal with our crazy leadership and charismatic people, and just, how we talk in the media, maybe investors don't like. Sometimes we're just so straightforward, but regardless, the product stands on its own and the platform delivers, and customers expand on their contracts and buy more. That's what I want to see in an investment and in a software company generating over 70% gross margins, is what they're doing. So we'll get into the financials in the next couple parts here. But I want to close here and just say thank you for watching episode 1 of the YouTube series on the deep dive for Palantir. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this content and learned something new about investing. Now, if you did like it, make sure to smash that like button. Help us deliver new content for you. And hit subscribe so this way you don't miss any other episodes of our YouTube channel. You can also listen to our network podcast, Pounding the Table, so you can learn more about stocks and learning how to beat the market. Now, are you ready to jump back in the water and dive in? I know I am. So until next time.